Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Need to Nerd podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and I am joined by my co host, a man who is not quirkless because he has the quirk of my heart, Wes Singleton.
Oh boy, am I quirky.
I had not thought of that joke, but that is also accurate of you. So today, Wes, it's funny because
This is serious business.
I
It's
am
not funny.
often excited for this podcast. I have quite literally never been more excited for an episode of this.
How many fan accounts? Like how many fake Twitter accounts did you go to
None.
upvote this option in the poll?
Well,
to make sure it tied the other.
I was going to say this one tied with.
That was also your fake Twitter accounts voting, so that the other two options didn't win. We took a poll to decide our episode.
Yeah, we
had tied options, so we had our pick.
Yeah, so we had a tied option between My Hero Season 1 and MTG Arena. We'll still do an MTG Arena episode. I think that Wes and I would both really enjoy just talking about Arena and what we love about it. But very few things do I love as much as I love My Hero Academia. I kind of have this weird thing, Wes, where I wait for things to be over, quote unquote, before I put them in my pantheon of things, right? And I have zero doubts that My Hero Academia will end up being my favorite anime. The way in which I love this is like the way.
What's on the chopping block?
It's Yu Yu Hakusho is my favorite anime. And it's funny. I watched Yu Yu Hakusho again last year, and as I was watching it, it was while I was watching the new season of My Hero, and I was just like, I don't know if My Hero will beat it. Like, I love Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah. Nostalgia is the only reason that Yu Yu Hakusho would actually win out.
There is a lot of nostalgia with Yu Yu Hakusho, but I also just think Yu Yu Hakusho is just one of the all-time great animes. But this show, my love for it is like on par with like my love for Star Wars in a lot of ways, where it I don't know, it really speaks to me in a different way, and I am really excited to talk about it.
I mean, this show is about, like most good anime, it's about strong feelings. How to manifest them in the world.
Yeah. Before we get too far into this, we just want to don't forget that if you want to talk about anime, you want to talk about Magic the Gathering, two things that we've already mentioned in the show. Don't forget to head on over to the Heezy Game Media Discord. We have contests going on for Magic the Gathering, as well as I plan on doing posting the poll for the episodes in there, so you can help decide what type of episode we be doing. We be doing West. It's pretty exciting stuff in there, and we got fantasy football, Magic the Gathering, anime. So we were posting about Star Wars during the last 2 weeks of episodes. So there's a ton of stuff going on there. What was that face?
Fantasy football is never as exciting as it sounds.
I love fantasy
football. It should be fought with shields and swords and spells and stuff.
I beat my wife by 70 points this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It's good.
The name fantasy football is the reason it's like not a fantastic name. Like, it just invokes a different feel for me, but that's okay.
So last week we did not record an episode, and we did record it the week before, which was the day that I got laid off from my job. And I really wanted to take a break and think about like my future and what I wanted to do with my life and all the kind of stuff you do when you get laid off because they're just cutting 17 people. I think that one thing I realized is I really love doing this kind of content. I love Need to Nerd. I love Arena Mythicast I'm doing over in Constructive Criticism, and I want to do more content. But I also want to do other things as well to kind of help the world. But while I'm laid off, it's the perfect time for me to beg for money, West. So if you love this show, head on over to patreon.com/HeezyGameMedia. It would actually be really helpful for this show specifically. You don't really need to do it because I got laid off. I just thought it was a funny joke. I got a very generous severance, and I'm really appreciative of my company for the way that they treated me and all the lessons that they gave me and stuff like that. But We are going to be updating the Patreon. I'll be doing that while I'm laid off. I'll be going in there, sending some stuff to Wes while bugging him while he's at work, sucker, so that we can get that updated. But
Still have a job. Let's go.
but it is it's really cool to see the things that people say about this show. We got tweeted out a couple weeks ago, and just that kind of interaction and that type of stuff is really cool. And if you want to support the show directly, the best way to do that is to head on over to Patreon. All right. So typically our first segment is West sells it, but lately I've been stealing the thunder, West.
Yeah.
And I'm
We just know you do a better job.
That's not true.
Of selling this?
Oh, well.
I mean, actually, I don't know.
Is
the like over the moon salesperson, or like the rational here's your needs salesperson the better salesman?
I don't know. Here's how
Probably the over the moon salesman.
Here's how I'm going to sell this. There are many great schools throughout history. There's Professor X's school for the gifted. There's Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. But now we come to a new school. The School of Heroes. My Hero Academia takes place at UA High, a school for children with special uncanny abilities, much like the schools mentioned previously. But in this one, it's a little bit different, because in those schools, those are people that are different than everyone else. And in this world, we now live in a world where 80% of the human population has special abilities of some kind, called quirks. And this school teaches people to use their quirks in the best ways possible, from hero courses to helping people in, with different, mechanics and abilities, finance. Like they have a range of courses to help you maximize your special abilities. And this show starts off with the most unlikely of heroes, which is a young boy named Izuku Midoriya that doesn't have a quirk. And it follows his journey to try and become the world's greatest hero.
And if you look to Spencer's back left, you get to see a really cool image of him after he does cool things.
Oh, man. I love this. This one...
And if you look further to his back left, you see how it all goes wrong.
Oh, is it Kylo Ren? He turns into Kylo Ren. I don't think they can see Kylo Ren on the screen for what's. They can see Deku though. But yeah, this follows the story of Deku and kind of his classmates in class 1A. And we are going to do this, sometimes when the things are as old as this, we kind of don't do it spoiler free. But I do think that the first 3 episodes of this show are worth keeping it, not spoiled if you haven't seen it yet. So, Wes, without giving spoilers, can you give me kind of like what your first impressions of this show were? Not this time when you watched it.
It's the Izuku pointing at the screen, tears in his eyes, like, but can I do that? That is the feeling I get from the first impressions of the show, which is this strong desire to be and do something that the world is telling you can't. Which is, Izuku has no quirk, no power, but a fierce desire and admiration for heroes and a strong ambition to become one.
Just to be 100% clear, I am already tearing up. Like, I will cry during this episode.
Oh, yeah. And what could be more relatable than you want to do something and everyone's like, honey, it's not going to be you. Shh. But then you go and do it anyways. That's the overall impression, is just like that excited kid who wants to do a thing but has huge barriers to overcome to get there. That feeling is the first impression I have of the show.
I really like what you said. That so I'm gonna cry. You use the word relatable, and I think that you would think that a show about a bunch of superhuman kids just would not be one of the most relatable animes ever. And for me, this show has the character, to me, which is Izuku Midoriya, that I've related to more than any other character in any media. I mean, for years, my Twitter profile picture was literally me in Deku's hero costume. It is man, I'm gonna cry. It is such a relatable thing to just want to help others, and you see that through a lot of these characters, and through these classmates, and through the teachers teaching the students about.
And a lot of feelings of inferiority.
Oh yeah, I mean,
everyone has their sights set on someone better than them, and they want to surpass them.
Yeah, and a lot of them,
people have their wires crossed about people like that they want to surpass that are probably weaker than them, and it's really funny.
Yes. Well, and you also see characters where, you know, they want to achieve something, but they have these huge self doubts. And you know they don't really know their own potential, and it's really cool to kind of see them unlock that. So that's it for the spoiler-free part. Unless Wes, do you have anything else you want to add? But if you have not watched season 1 of this anime, there's a reason it's the most popular anime right now.
Yeah, like, it has gorgeous animation, incredible music, fantastic character design,
character development too. It's just snappy. Like
things move. It never feels like things are dragging.
Right.
Like the one filler episode in the entire series, like feels really slow because of how fast everything else moves.
Yeah. So that's gonna do it for spoiler free. I want to talk about overall impressions. We're gonna from here on out. We're gonna talk about the season 1. West, my overall impression of season 1 is very different this time than the first time.
Yeah.
So the first
time
you
contrast the two? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely can. So the first time that I watched season 1, I was still diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And for those who don't know, I grew up in a really religious household, in a religion that you've probably seen them. They're called Mormon missionaries, where people give up 2 years of their life to go proselyte. And when I was in the church, I was told I couldn't serve a mission because I was bipolar. I wasn't allowed to. It wasn't safe. And it was really painful because when you...
My brain just did 3 backflips in response to that. So let's go. That's a heck of a place to be.
So, you know, in this church specifically, you are really ostracized if you don't serve a mission as a man. And so,
you're basically an ineligible bachelor.
Oh, absolutely. Like women are taught from the age of, you know, even younger than 12. You know, that they need to marry a return missionary. And so it was devastating for me to be told that because of a disability that I couldn't do that thing. And the first time that I watched this, that moment, oh, I'm going to cry. I definitely made her cry.
Yeah.
That moment where Deku,
I think that it's clear. It's clear that we're going to cry watching and talking about My Hero Academia because of how often the characters are crying, and how often characters who in a different anime might have like an ethos of never crying.
Yeah.
Cry.
You know, that moment where Deku's talking to his mom, and it's that moment where he says, "That's not what I needed to hear, Mom."
Yeah.
Like, I just paused it. This is the first time I paused it, and I was sobbing. Like, I was sobbing. My wife walks in there and she's, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, no, I am not. No, I am not okay. And
spoiler alert, he was okay.
And this time when I watched it, my diagnosis has been changed. I'm not diagnosed bipolar. You know, I have a different diagnosis now. But I still relate to that moment of being told.
Actually, I think it makes it more relatable in the end.
It does. It really does.
It brings it full circle.
It really does. It's just like, it really does. Man, it is so hard to watch this 8-year-old. Was he even 8 yet at that time? He was. Yeah, he was
younger.
No, he was 8.
Is it 8?
It's
okay.
8. It's 8 when they checked his pinky toe.
That's right. Your pinky toe is the decider.
If you're listening and you haven't watched the show yet, and I just said
none of it makes sense.
You're like, what? but the thing is like this 8-year-old is told by his mom that he can't. I'm crying now. That he can't do something, and it is like
Yeah.
it's devastating.
And like, let's contrast this with a different character, right? Like, that's Izuku's story, right? Now put him next to like his tag along best friend, right? The person who he spends the most time with, who's been told he has everything and can be anything from the get-go, right? Which is the Bakugo is the character I relate to in a sense because of
The gifted and talented type of stuff.
exactly, that feeling of like being told I can do anything is available to me, and then being repeatedly frustrated along that path, which they end in the same place. I think that's what's so interesting, right? Both characters come to the same place of deciding that they have to be better for themselves because of what they want, but they take very different routes to get there. And it's part of the reason why this show is so relatable, is it has these different characters each coming at it with a different angle, a different perspective, a different set of burdens and challenges.
I agree, and I think that like the first time watching season 1, I was binge watching because I was a late to My Hero. It's funny because I kept seeing it pop up on Funimation while I was watching different things that I was watching, as like, you will like this show. And then I saw a commercial for it on Toonami, and I was like, I do kind of want to try and watch that. And then former co-host of this show, Mason Clark, was like, yeah, you should watch it. And I watched it all really fast.
Yeah.
I don't like binge watching, but I binge watched this one. And so for me, season 1 used to blend into season 2 like quite a bit. But as you get into season 2 becomes kind of its own entity in a lot of ways. But I remember, watching specifically, I think it was the Battle Trial arc where, Deku tries to beat Bakugo without using his quirk.
Yeah.
And he gets Deku doesn't often get like, he gets mad like I get mad, where he's like, I'm not mad at you personally, I'm mad
just have this emotion that needs to go out.
I just don't like that you don't get what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Is kind of how Deku gets mad. And, that moment where he's like, Bakugo, you don't get it. Like, you've never gotten it. And you can't get it because you're this privileged kid who, I mean, back for what it's worth, Bakugo's not really privileged for what it's worth. I think Bakugo has a lot of...
I think it's fascinating that season 1, we get this feeling that Bakugo is the one who has it all, and then we really learn later that there are some individuals in this class that even have more of it and more pressure, more burden that's put on them.
Yeah.
But they're so quiet about it at first because of that pressure.
But the moment where he is just like, I idolized you as a kid.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm amazing.
Like, I wanted to be you, Bakugo, and the fact that you think that I'm holding back when all I want to do is beat you because I think you're so great, and you don't see that, like, that was a really big moment for me the first time that I watched it. And I think it really sets a tone for what season 1 is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, easily like that. I mean, these animes like these are defined, right, by the conflict between the protagonist cohort, right? This engagement between Izuku and Bakugo is as fundamental to the show as the schism between Naruto and Sasuke is in Naruto, right?
And for those who have watched Naruto, you got that reference.
And for those of you who haven't watched Naruto, you still got that reference, because guess what?
I got it.
Every anime nerd you know has been talking about Naruto for 10 years now. 11, 20, 15, I don't know.
I think that's actually part of the reason why I haven't watched Naruto, is because I know what happens in Naruto.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, there's this moment, right, where like, Bakugo, who has thought that this relationship with this person has been one way this whole time, right? Like, you're Deku, you're useless, right? That's been what he's called him for years now, and he's convinced himself that he is entitled to treat Izuku in this way because he's useless. He's convinced himself that that's how it has to be because that's what the world lets him do. And then as soon as he's has that fractured for a moment, right? What if Izuku is powerful? What if he has been sandbagging? What if he isn't useless like I thought he was? Bakugo, he can't begin to process the amount of wrong that he's caused to this other person. In that sense that he is willing to see the humanity of Izuku now, right? He's willing to see the threat, the power, the rivalry, right? That he's never seen before, right? And as soon as he's in that space, he just gets mad because he doesn't have any idea how to handle this, and he doesn't know what's going on, right?
I'm surprised.
All he knows is he thought one thing, and reality is telling him something else. And for a few moments, reality is telling him more than actually is, right? Izuku has actually just like gotten the better of him in the first of 3 exchanges, right? Yeah. Like he dodged the obvious right hook. He ran away. He, did all of these things that like are just a total surprise to Bakugo in the moment. Because Izuku is standing up for himself and fighting back in a way he never has before.
Yeah.
And he's just scared and confused, and that comes out as rage for him in that fight. And it's so fascinating to just like break that down and think about it for a moment. And right, their conversation after it, later that day, on the steps of the school, I think is really where it comes to like this crystal clear notion, because they're both, instead of saying what they want the other to, what they think the other needs to hear, they say what they want to have heard from them in that moment, which I think is so powerful, right? Izuku comes up, wants to give excuses to Bakugo, like, to make him less mad, right? But instead he says, I want to beat you, right? And I will always want to beat you. And like, Bakugo is like, yeah, that's where we're at now. We're going to fight. We're going to fight because I no longer think you're useless and I'm no longer mad that you're helping me. Instead, I just want to know I'm better because I've always known I've been better, and now I'm not sure.
Sure.
And it's so fascinating to think about.
We're kind of getting into off of overall impressions and into Lovitz, but what was your now that you can speak freely, what was your overall impression of season 1?
Oh goodness, my overall impression of season 1 is leaders are those who bring out the skills of others.
You know, one of the things that I find interesting of the rewatch was Tenya Ida is, I can't decide if I like him or not. I like his
grading.
Yeah, does he remind you of Derek?
Not really. In some ways, but a lot of not in other ways.
I mean, I meant the feelings you get when he talks. Does he remind you of Derek more than anything? Anyway, we don't need to get into your friends.
But no, I know what you mean. Like, Tenya is, I mean, he's got this sense of who he's supposed to be that's out of line with who he is. I think how everyone shows up to the school feeling that way, because they're all just out of middle school.
Yeah, right? The thing that's really interesting about season 1 of My Hero is it has a pretty major focus, right? It gives you very small bits of a lot of characters, but really tells you about Midoriya and Bakugo. And so, because it's really funny to me, because when you were talking at the beginning of this episode, I was like, it's interesting to me that you relate to Bakugo and not Momo, because Momo is is the one that if I was in All Gifted and Talented, and Momo Yazurozu is that is, she has imposter syndrome from not knowing if any, that's just who she is. Obviously you don't get that in season 1, you get that in seasons 2 and 3. So it was just, I don't know, it makes sense that it would come.
Bakugo isn't I relate to him as it relates to me in early high school, right? That's where the feeling is going from a big fish, small pond energy to being the smallest fish in a much larger pond.
the thing that's funny to me is like Deku. Deku is I don't know. He's. I mean, if you want to watch, there's a video on this YouTube channel where I talk about my relationship with Deku. Please note that if you watch that video, it is while I was still diagnosed bipolar. But my overall impression of season 1 is I need more of this. I need more of this.
And I do identify with Deku, but from a much later point in my life. From
Sure.
a like, here is a raw assessment of what I have, and I can see how far away it is from where I want to be.
Yeah.
Right. Where I identify with Bakugo is when I had a very incorrect assessment of what I had.
Yeah.
And
Which
a very
I think is true
incorrect
of
assessment of how far I was away from where I wanted to be.
Which I think is true
and
of Bakugo.
I was convinced that I was right.
Yeah. Let's talk about Lovitz. This can be anything. This in this segment we just talk about the things that we loved about what we're reviewing, and I have quite a few in this season, and we will do. I'm sure that we will do all the seasons, but like I said, we're just talking about season 1 this time. But there are quite a few, moments that I really loved. I think we already talked about the biggest one. I think it's literally the opening line of the show. Is at a young age I realized that not all men are created equal, and that is one of the best lines of anything. We live in a world where we like to believe that everyone has the same starting point, and it is absolutely not true. It is without question not true.
Yeah.
And we need to stop failing to see that it's not true.
Totally.
And this show does a really good job of highlighting why. In fact, in later episodes,
both in the consequences of it and the positives of once you accept that worldview as well.
Absolutely. I mean, if we look at, this is adding an extra layer to what's already true about reality, right? I mean, look at Yazuro's. Oh my gosh, I'm going to say Momo's name so many times. But look at her. She comes from
Yazuro's right.
She comes from a super rich family. She also has just one of the most insane quirks.
She has she's like this interesting ceiling is a mile high quirks. And she's already built.
She's already there.
Within that.
She didn't even need the quirk.
She's getting there. Yeah,
exactly.
But it does have challenges.
And the thing is you I don't know that you see it too. You see some of that in this season, where some of these characters they realize that about themselves while others do not, and it is interesting to see these characters coming from all these different backgrounds talking about and feeling that thing that Deku says right at the beginning of the show. And I think that line is one of my favorite moments. I think that the moment with his mom, while every single time I watch it, it makes me cry. I'm going to cry thinking about it right now. It is probably my favorite moment in anime history.
It's a really good one. It's I think that she admits she's wrong and the effect that it had later. Which is so powerful as well.
I think the other thing is
parenting moment.
The other thing is my son has he's not diagnosed with asthma because he's 3, but he has asthma. They can't diagnose you that young, but he's asthmatic anyway, and he wants to be a football player or a basketball player. Let me tell you something. I am 5'8". My wife is 5'5". My son is not going to be a basketball player. It's not happening.
He's not going to be a success. He's not going to be a bankrolled professional basketball player. He can play basketball.
Right. And he could be a great 3-point shooter one day. But instead of telling him you're not going to be a basketball player, when we play basketball together, I don't let him shoot layups. I make him shoot as far back as he can. And the thing is I don't know what's right in parenting. Deku's mom certainly doesn't know what's right in parenting. And to act like we do, it's just wrong.
Okay, now that we're talking about it, why does no anime that has an absent father ever talk about it? Where culturally do they not talk about
there is beliefs that there is a reason.
fathers?
There's a plug your ears, by the way, if you don't want spoilers. There's beliefs that Deku's father is an important storyline for later in the show. That's why.
Like Ash's father never shows up.
Sure.
Like I'm talking about that. Like I'm like, why are dads just like?
Why are dads always gone in anime? I mean,
yeah, why are dads always gone? But
where's
unexplained?
Yusuke's dad? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Why does nobody have a dad?
It's just a trope in anime.
Yeah.
Except
Just
like
Todoroki,
in Disney,
got a
all
dad.
the
Oh
just
boy,
like in
does he have a
Disney.
dad.
Yeah, Todoroki has a dad.
But who, by the way, is just an Arcanine or an Incineroar, right? Like he has that like enormous like golden retriever energy, but on fire.
Yeah. I think my other love it for this season specifically. It's funny because like I think this is one of the. It is one of the weaker seasons of My Hero, but so good for a first season, which is really interesting. And I think the reason for that is that it is a very small contained space. You don't even get the full school year. Like you're just getting.
You barely even get the full class.
You like get so little, and I actually love that about My Hero.
Yeah, everything is just unfolding slowly over time,
and there's such trickling effects that I really appreciate it. I mean, I think that one of my favorite moments of this season is when Deku gets 0 points from the challenge to save Uraraka, and he's sitting there waiting for his acceptance.
Arguably, he would have gotten 0 points whether he saved her or not. Right? I don't think he had a choice to go find more points. I don't think that was really an option available to him at the time. He actually moved the only path forward he had.
Yeah, but one of my favorite moments is like everyone just believing that Deku was some super genius. When Deku's like, I was just trying to be helpful. Like I don't know.
And that was like, yes, that's what we're scoring for. That's what we want.
Yeah, and it is this ability to score on this natural ability to just want to help people, and I don't know. It was that moment where Uraraka is like, I mean, maybe I won't get in, but can you give him some? Like, I wouldn't have done as well without this kid. It was a beautiful moment where you saw something great about these two characters. Both of them,
I actually really like Uraraka. She's one of my favorite characters.
Oh my gosh! I know that as soon as she turns 18, she's my waifu.
Okay.
She is adorable. I'm not allowed to say it because I'm an old guy, but like that is the type of girl that will grow into a really amazing woman. Like she cares so deeply for people. She's super awesome.
Yeah, but like I think beyond that, like I think that she is one of the like it's never talked about because she's not the focus of the season, but she's making the right choice every second it matters the entire season long.
Oh, she is something. She is like probably my second favorite character.
She has such an incredible ability to intuit what is needed of her with her limited power set, right? She has a very powerful power set, right? As scored by her infinity score throwing a softball in the air, right? But it's narrow, right? It's only gravitational effect, right? It's only as destructive as the thing that she's affecting, right? And when she just saves Deku when he's falling a few hundred feet with 3 broken limbs, when she figures out exactly what her job is to do in the test with, retrieving the nuclear device, when she figures out exactly everything she needs to do to move stuff forward for, she just has this incredible ability to just accept a support role.
Yeah.
But make it the critical role.
Yeah. She is, obviously my joke didn't land very well with you, but she is actually the type of girl that I dated in high school. Like, she is a sweetheart. She's like, and she is, I don't know, she's so sweet, and she cares so deeply. She is by far like my second favorite character in this show.
One of my favorite moments is when I think it's Jiro, the electric guy,
Mm-hmm.
like is trying to like hit her up, like, hey, do you want to go get lunch? And then Deku walks in the room, and she's just like, Deku.
Yeah.
Also,
this is not her best season either. So like the fact that
No.
we're singing her praises,
the fact that she's there's only 3 characters in this season, maybe 4 if you count their teacher.
no, it's just All
Aizawa.
Might in those two. Those are the only characters.
I think Aizawa is a character, actually.
He is at the end.
I think that his first episode with them, he is actually a huge influence.
That's actually that is a huge love it for me this season, is the fact that like
I like his smile when he's like, this kid. I love that face.
Oh, I would like All Might when All Might confronts him. It's like, why didn't you kick Deku out? Like, you kicked out a whole entire class last year. Like, what happened? And I think that it goes to show that Aizawa puts on
He's
rough.
very. I hate to make Naruto references, but he sounds like Kakashi all the time.
I actually don't know who that is, but I love the rough exterior when I think that he's just another one of those characters that really cares.
Yeah, who cares? Like, the cruelest thing to let someone do is pursue a dream they can't achieve.
Yeah,
that's a big thinker line. Whether it is true, whether it is wrong, he has thought deep and he has made a decision. He is out there to protect people, even if he has to take on some amount of cruelty to do it. Is pretty impressive, right? He's choosing the lesser of 2 cruelties in that case.
right.
The show, I don't think we've talked enough about like when stuff hits the fan and right when like the villains attack them while they're in class. I think it's a really important sort of.
Yeah, is that one of your favorite moments for what it's worth? That'll love it for you.
My favorite moment within that is once everyone is separated out in the field doing what they can, right? Like, and I think 2 groups do this better than others. The 2 groups being the Yayozoro's group and Izuka's group, right? Where they have to like figure out, okay, we're surrounded. We're way out.
Bakugo's group does pretty well.
Well, they were never in danger. That's what it felt like. They never had to figure it out.
That's true, but I think that I think that while Todoroki and Bakugo,
although it's pretty sick when Bakugo's like, these guys are trash. Everyone's gonna win. I like that one.
Yeah, well, also like when he just grabs the invisible dude and slams his head down while he's talking.
That's really funny. Yeah,
that moment is so great. I'm just like, all right, Bakugo, like show him what's up.
Yeah. But specifically when not frontliners have to take on frontlining,
sure,
is really fascinating. I also loved Suchan. She's a great character. Frog Girl.
Okay, we'll get into that during my could be betters. Yeah, you're not gonna like my could be betters.
All right.
I think that one of my other favorite moments. I think that episode though actually does a really good job of giving you a lot of information about Todoroki in a very small time. When he is like, I want to be a hero, so I don't want to kill you, but you better talk right now. Like, he's serious. Like, he's like, I don't care. Like,
yeah, and I think that part of the reason we basically, right, the season 1 is about the characters that really weren't on the level to like truly succeed, getting to the level to truly succeed. Right? Everyone who was going to be fine no matter what happened isn't super talked about.
One of the other things that I really liked about those moments, you talk about Bakugo saying that those guys were trash, right? Those last couple episodes, and they kind of tie back into the beginning of the show, where they talk about both wasted potential and how villains come to exist, right? Like, what makes somebody with an awesome quirk become a villain? Like, what? I mean, are they just bad people? Like, what happens? And I think that those episodes, both the first couple and then the last couple in this season, do a job of highlighting that to help you understand the world and the world building around these quirks.
Yeah, and I think that it's also important that, like, I think they can only just barely get into it in this season, and I think they do a better job of adding to that in later seasons.
That's
for
why
sure.
it's such a great first season. It gives you nuggets
It
of
gives you just
everything you need and want, right? It's like, I mean, if we go to the very first episode, right, where Deku's taking notes on these heroes, to the end, or to the middle where he's using those notes to beat Bakugo, to the end where like he has where All Might talks about all this internalization he's done and using it in the end. And I think that you see the same thing from Bakugo, right? Where he, that there's that moment where he realizes what he did wrong against. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the villain's name. I want to call him what Bakugo called him, which is ridiculous. He called him like Smoky Guy or something, but. Where he's like, I figured it out. You have a body, that's why you wear armor. I just wasn't hitting you in your body. And you see actual character growth and story building throughout this season in a way that is really impressive. Any other major levets for you from the season before we can move on to kind of could be betters?
Yeah. How the end of the season really leaves us with the adults can save you this time, but they won't always be there. I think it's such a good, like, ominous place to leave these characters.
Oh, you certainly see that with, All Might was almost, he needed the kids' help to beat that Nomu, and
yeah,
it is certainly it's such a good first season. Gosh, let's go on to could be betters. I'll start because I kind of spoiled this. So I have two characters that I cannot stand in this show, and they are Froppy and Mineta. I know Froppy is a fan favorite, but I don't like anything about her. I don't think she stands for anything. I don't think she, like, even in the episode that we're talking about, right, where Froppy is giving Deku all of this information, it feels like Froppy is... So I have a theory. At the end of the season, they talk about how somebody from within inside the school helped people get in.
Mm.
And there's tons of YouTube videos guessing who it is. Most people think it's either the belly button dude or the electricity dude. Kaminari or oh my gosh, why can't I remember belly button dude's name? Either way, most people think it's one of those two. I think it's Froppy. I think Froppy purposefully is not helpful a lot of the time. And if she's not, then I just can't stand her as a character. I don't know why she doesn't help almost ever. Like, and in that episode, like, she does a lot of talking, but there's something I don't like about her. I don't know what it is. She's a fan favorite. People love Froppy. I don't like her. And it's funny because I didn't hate Mineta. I hate Mineta as, like, a character, but I actually have no...
Yeah, the part where they, like, have to have, like, in these, like, teenager-based...
I think it's funny for what it's worth. Like, I think that it's funny that they're making fun of the trope. I actually like that about My Hero. They're purposefully making fun of the trope and making sure you get that it's not okay. I like that about My Hero Academia, because they're saying, this is funny because this guy's an idiot. I like that they're making him out to be a little creepy idiot. and that everyone knows that he's a little creepy idiot. I think that is a boon for the show. People are like, I hate him, he's so ridiculous. It's like, it is showing you what not to be. That is a benefit to the show. That is a good thing. They make you hate him on purpose. They are showing you why his behavior is bad, so that future generations understand that this trope in anime has happened for years and it's not okay. It's a good thing. However, I have no idea.
I'd love to see that trope stop.
What?
I just like to see that trope walked away from, right? Like, you don't need to satirize a bad trope. You just need to stop using it.
I hope that eventually Mineta will become a better person, and that will be the end of the trope. That is my hope for Mineta. My problem with Mineta is I have no idea how he got into the position he's in. I did not notice this the first time I watched the season, but how in the world
did he pass enough tests
the test to get into the school?
Yeah.
Like, there's a few of them you wonder that for, right? The Invisible Girl, it's like, did she just get in on her quirk alone? Like, I have no idea. But Mineta, it actually makes no sense.
Did they clarify who all of the personal recommendations are? I think I can only remember 2.
I think that it's only those 2.
They said 4.
Did they say 4?
But it might be 4 in the grade and 2 per class.
Yeah, because there are personal recommendations in Class 1B. Either way, it actually bugs me that I don't know how Mineta got in. Because by the end of that episode, and I didn't notice this until this time watching it, until literally 2 days ago, I was like, wait a second, why is Mineta here?
Yeah. Why doesn't he pass the tests?
He's not brave. His quirk is useless. Like, what did he do to get to this position?
I think his quirk is actually one of the weirdly powerful ones in very nonlinear ways. But he's not good at using it nonlinearly.
It's powerful for him. Like, if he wants to get away, if he wants to climb up a wall, or if he wants to run away from something, like, it protects him really, really well. But how does that equate into the test that they took to get into the school?
The test requirement did say incapacitated, as in cannot move.
Well, then that's how he got in.
Yeah, if he just if he just threw a bunch of them on the ground and the tank rolls over and stops.
Fair enough. Well, there you go. We have an answer to my question. Mineta does
he's actually a really useful in terms of hero work, right? Because hero work isn't lethal damage, right? Hero work is stop and capture, right? He actually is A+ on that. So I think that's how he got in.
If Mineta grows as a person, I think that he's super useful. He's just in that moment, it's like, but the thing is what did he do during the test? I just want to know what he did during the test.
Sure.
He didn't even rip the things off of his head until somebody basically made him do it.
Yeah.
It was a huge.
I think it would be interesting to have a quick 10-minute sequence that's just showing each student's experience in those tests.
Oh, that would be such a cool episode. Or 2-episode, if they did filler episodes, through the past, they've done it once, but if they did it again where it's here's what this person did during the test, I would love that.
Or how to set up a new drama of that moment where there are things that are happening in the background of that we don't see.
So yeah, Froppy, I don't think she stands for anything, and I just don't like her as a character. I think she's actually a bad guy. I'll be happy when I'm wrong. Then All Might is my other could be better for this season specifically. It's hard because All Might has become one of my favorite characters, and he has become someone that I really appreciate in later seasons. But the first time I watched this, I didn't get All Might and didn't get why people appreciated him. I thought that he was a buffoon and lazy and ridiculous, and I don't know that I was supposed to feel all those things about him. And I felt like being a hero got to his head, which I think is true. I think that being the number one hero did get to All Might's head in a lot of ways, and he has a lot of pride. But I didn't quite get him in this season, and I think it is a flaw of this season, and it's something that you could have made All Might better this season. They do a really good job in later seasons of kind of showing who All Might really is. And in this season, he just feels like a
cardboard cutout.
No, he's such a he acts like there's nothing that he could have done differently, or that, and he like plays the victim a little bit in
Yeah, like,
this.
ooh, me losing my powers.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way for
I
who the character is.
I think you're entitled to feel that way. I think a big part of that is how when you tell other people a lie about yourself for a very long time, you become the lie. And I think that in this moment, right, All Might is still is he's at the point of both being brutally aware of his own mortality still, but not yet willing to admit to himself even or everyone else that he isn't the all-powerful hero he set himself up to be.
Yeah,
right?
I
Only
totally,
one person sees it, right?
no,
Izuku.
that's not true. The whole half the staff knows.
Well, they know that he has limitations.
No, they
They
know that
don't
he's
believe.
they know that he has
No, I know
complete.
that.
Okay.
There's something deeper though. There's the sense of brokenness, not just of injury. This sense of
I think
All Might is going to bite off more than he can chew.
yeah.
That Izuku has internalized because he gets it.
I think that the nurse gets it. I think Izawa gets it, and I think the principal definitely, all three of those, understand where All Might is at in life and what is happening.
Yeah,
Here's the thing: is that
but they don't act on it.
well,
If that makes sense, they're too passive.
The nurse
They're,
slaps him around.
that's different. It's a reaction. Izuku says, "I think All Might is in trouble."
Yeah.
Not, "Oh, you got into trouble."
But do you think All Might thinks he's in trouble?
Yes, but
I don't get that from this season.
Well, that's the thing, is that's his whole thing, is he puts up a front to trick even himself off of his fear.
So I completely agree with that, but that is my could be better. I don't think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's actually great writing.
It's made explicit in the season.
You're right. Maybe it's just great writing, and I
mean, you're allowed to feel what you feel.
The thing is like, it's so hard because he becomes one of my favorite characters, so I don't want to bash him.
Also, I mean, it's like such a fascinating situation where, right, you are now the number one, right? You have this aura of the number one, and you are aware that your status as number one is routinely suppressing danger.
Yeah.
You are walking on eggshells the whole time. There is no choice you can make that doesn't have consequences.
I think that the thing here's my problem is that he could walk to Endeavor tomorrow and just give Endeavor the power. He could walk to any of the top heroes.
He's very prideful.
That's my problem. He has that's my problem. Is because I don't think that All Might really is prideful. I think that something has happened that they don't explicitly call out.
Sure, but that's what later seasons are for, right? And I think that's true. That's the other thing. I think we have this conversation every time we do a season one.
To be fair,
which is that season ones have so much pressure on them and so much more constraint than typical than other seasons.
It's the best season one of any anime I've ever watched. Let's just get that out of the way.
Sure, yeah, but like, it doesn't deny that it still had exactly 13 episodes to do what it needed to do. It had a more limited budget than its later renditions, right?
Right.
It has to meet expectations in a way so that it can then break them later, but it has to meet those expectations first.
What was your could be betters?
Oh, my could be betters. I mean, I think that, like, I like your questioning of, like, do people belong here is an interesting one, because I don't think I questioned it to quite the same degree at first, right? I think that's probably my difference of several watch throughs that you have over me.
I've only watched every episode at least 5 times. Well, actually, no, that's not true, because I watched it in Japanese too, so 6.
I wish that, like, the character trope that Mineta is satirizing just didn't exist. I've complained about that in every time it's come up in this entire podcast, and so people should know me on that record. Other things I think could be done better. I think that the gamification of the situations that these characters are put in works really well for the first half of the season, right? Where they're in these situations where there are rules, you got to follow the rules. There's a crunch, you have to like succeed with these restrictions, right? And then they go and just make the same format for when the villains attack. They're still like,
we don't know what's going to happen when the we don't know what the challenge actually was going to be. They were supposed to do a rescue.
No, I get
situation.
that. And they would have done that in that situation. But my point is like, even though like they're in this unprecedented, very different situation, and like somehow they don't teach the lesson that the games are not reality because the reality feels too much like the games. If that makes sense, right? They get split up into these different areas and they have their challenges and it's like that, right? They don't review it afterwards in the way they do like all the other ones, but like it has that same feeling, and maybe it's for continuity's sake, maybe it's for storytelling ease.
I don't think I understand what your could be better is.
Right, so like the first parts of right the way that this website breaks down the arcs, right, is there's the entrance exam, right? There's a test of a game. There's the quirk apprehension arc. There's a test of a game.
Mm-hmm.
There's the battle trial arc. There's a test of a game.
Yeah.
Right?
But then the game
arc is still like a game, like a test.
Right, but
I
then
don't
it
think
breaks.
It teaches only barely. Right? Like the overall
Those are real villains. You know that, right?
No, I know that. The overall situation has broken that mentality, but the way that they tell the story is still in that mindset. It's still like place by place.
I don't think I understand.
Solve the challenges you're in. Maybe I'm like just getting too deep in my nitpickiness.
No, that's okay. I mean, to be fair, this season's great. We're both nitpicking. Like, let's be let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. We have to dig deep.
So let me ask it this way: How do you say that because they were split up? Like they just attacked the challenges in front of them. So like let's just take Izuku, Sue, and Mineta. How do they attack this prop? Like, how is that a game? I don't think I understand.
They think of it in the same way. They ask the same questions that like is known across this genre.
Though? Isn't the point of the training
is to think of it in terms of like what are our objectives, what are our options? Yeah. I don't know. I wanted it to like
did you want Izuku to kill somebody? Like I don't think I
don't know. I guess I don't know. Maybe I rescind my my original feeling here.
Your obvious could be better as Mineta. I think that everyone on the whole planet agrees.
Yeah, which isn't very exciting.
It doesn't need to be exciting.
I think that Uraraka is close enough to the center of like I think that like the dyad of Bakugo and like I think that there's room for her story to be told in season 1. For her to be made fully 3-dimensional. She gets so close. She gets so close to being like the most 3-dimensional like main female friend in an anime show. She gets so close, and then they just don't quite deliver on that in season 1, right? Like, I think they do it over the rest of the series, but like, if the goal is to have season 1 sell everyone forever, right? Yeah. So that they'll watch every season forever. I think that they could have done more to give Uraraka motivations that make sense, give her actions that surprise us and show growth, as opposed to she's great and she'll always be great. Which is kind of how it feels sometimes, right? It's like she needs to move. She's very much not Soraka.
I think that
I guess or Sakura. I can't even like make these references to you though.
No, it's okay. I do agree with you on a couple of like. I think that one of the things that's a problem is that we have the benefit of knowing these characters 4 years in the future, and there are a lot of them that I wish got more screen time in this season. Like,
yeah.
Uraraka is definitely one of them. Todoroki is definitely one of them. I think that Red Riot. is definitely one. I think a lot of these characters. Yeah, I think that this. I agree with your could be better, and I think that. Go ahead.
But like, she's the one that I think that like. There are clear reasons why they didn't give so much screen time to all these characters was because they had limited choices. I think that she's the one that they should have made the extra push for.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because she's so central to Izuka's story and success.
I find it funny that the League of Villains. We didn't really talk about. I guess we don't really know much about them by the end of this season, but
yeah,
that's probably it could be better. I feel like maybe it's not though. That's the thing about the season is it really is like
it's abrupt.
It is a really good season 1. With that being said, how good is it, West? Scale of 0 to 5. What would you rate this for season 1?
Can we start like rating season 1s differently than the rest of like?
You can rate it however you want.
If I would season 1 a 5 of a show, and then
I would give this a 5.
That's arguably better.
Yes. Okay.
Like if a season 2 is arguably better than a season 1, and I still give it a 4.5 instead of a 5 when I gave the first season a 5, it's because the restrictions on season 1s are higher.
I think this for a season 1, this is a 5.
Yeah, easy.
I don't even think it's a question. Like we obviously would change things. I think Mineta sucks, but as I said, I think there's a reason Mineta sucks, and it's to show you that he sucks, and I am okay with that.
I would have just chosen like different like people to like not agree with, like different ways to do that. Like you could Mineta is the slot of like someone that everyone just thinks is sleazy, right? Like, but like I think there's a different way to tell that.
I think that's fair.
Like it could be someone who approaches these games that they're in a cheating fashion.
Way? Sure.
Yeah, like a different morality test other than like
that is actually interesting that we don't see somebody in Class 1A that's,
trying to get ahead against outside of the rules.
Yeah, we do in Class 1 is it 2A or 1B? Either way. But that's not until season 2. I do think that this season like I said, I think this is the best season 1 of any anime that I've ever watched. So
I'd have to do some deep digging to find one that's even comparable. So
I think One Punch Man only has 1 season, but I also think this season is better than the 1 episode that I watched. I need to watch it. So know that I did not watch.
I would have to say like the first 13 episodes of One Punch Man, because I feel like the front half and the back half of that show feel different.
I've only watched the first episode of One Punch Man. It is on my list.
Then you watch the show. You watched the show.
Okay. That is the impression that I got from other people, which if that's true, there's no chance that this isn't better.
It's like a fractal in a sense, right? Like the story is the same every time. They just tell it differently.
Yeah.
But it looks the same in the end.
The thing that I love the most about this season, and the thing that I hope that people take away from this, is it plants so many amazing seeds and storylines. I think the creator said that he could do 20 seasons of this show.
I bet.
And honestly, I could watch 20 seasons of this.
Done. You have.
Yeah. West, this is not my favorite season of My Hero Academia, but it is one that I hope that everybody watches. And it is full of some really, I think, important lessons. And we talked about the most important one being the opening line, but I really hope that people, if you haven't watched this season in a while, this is the anime that I recommend to everybody. Like, make sure your kids are about 8 years old before they watch it, maybe 10. Season 1 is good. Like any, I think that like 8 years old is great for this, but once you get into later parts of season 2, they have to be a little bit older. But this is the anime of right now, and it is one that I cherish a lot because I'm really glad that I got to live in a time where I get to relate to Midoriya and these characters and experience their world. So,
yep.
You can. Go ahead.
It's a good This is ultimately it's a sci-fi story, which is interesting. And that is very different than most anime we watch, which are usually fantasy stories.
It's sci-fi fantasy.
Well, sure, but like it's telling where can humanity be
Yeah.
story, not
Just got to get rid of that pinky, man. Just got to
how humanity is story. If that makes
streamline
sense.
the human body. Get rid of that pinky toe joint. We'll be good. You can find me at Spencer13H. You can find West at East Monotone. You can find the show at Need to Nerd Pod. Thank you everybody so much for listening. Whether you're in Chile or what are we doing here?
Keep going.
I just really appreciate everybody who's listening. What is happening? It's drinking dice.
And I can't do my awkward wait too long thing if you don't end this podcast.
You're drinking dice and the listeners can't see it.
These aren't dice.
Oh, that's even...
They're paper origami stars. They're really fun.
Right.
Learn how to make these. They're addicting to make.
They look like this. Thank you everybody so much for listening. We'll see you guys all next week with a brand new episode of the Need to Nerd podcast. That's weird. That's just a weird thing that's happening.
Plus Ultra, everyone.